Traditionally, most mainstream companies and advertisers have tended to shun the gay consumer market. Homosexuality is considered too controversial, and they don't want to risk alienating their straight customers. But more people are now leading openly gay lives. Even the TV sitcom character Ellen is preparing to come out on her show in a couple of weeks. And as public attitudes change, so too are some companies. To tap into a potentially lucrative market, big-name advertisers have begun targeting gay consumers. Tonight on Gregg and Company, contributing editor Gregg in conversation with Jim Armstrong. He's editor-in-chief of Fab, Canada's first gay men's fashion magazine, and Michael Wilkie, a reporter for Advertising Age magazine in New York.
Michael Wilkie, we're seeing an ever-increasing tendency on the part of corporate American advertisers to target and advertise to the gay marketplace. Now, it's not like gays just sprung out full-blown yesterday. I mean, why now is this starting to happen?
Well, it has been an evolution. It's something that started many years ago with a couple of categories of advertisers that have increased over the years as corporate America is more and more sticking its foot into the pool and giving it a try and seeing how things go. The numbers, the demographics have been thrown about a lot. People are quite familiar with them, and they're very attractive numbers, at least the ones that are being used at this point. The other thing is double income, no kids. DINKS is a term that's often that you know is something that is not necessarily only applied to the gay community, but something that...
No, but one of the things about the gay community you almost can count on is that their propensity to have children.
Everybody likes DINKS.
Disposable income, you know, a greater likelihood of traveling and using that money for things that you know, that people want to sell.
Jim Armstrong, you've developed a publication specifically designed to reach this marketplace. When we think of gay publications historically, they were always very sexual and very, very political, yet you've chosen to emphasize more of the complete gay man. Fashion, music, lifestyle. What are the advertisers who come to you? What are they looking for? What do they expect from you?
Well, I think that they're looking for a quality publication in which to get their product across. So often in gay publications, it's either a very political magazine or it's very light and very dance-oriented and clubs and drugs and that kind of thing. And I think that what we're after is reaching the market of just the regular person, the regular homosexual who's out there, who's living in the community, who's just kind of right down the middle, who there aren't really role models for.
Well, we should explain that, I mean, there's a dizzying array of corporations who are getting into this field now, and they seem to take also quite a different approach in terms of what kind of advertising and imagery they use. Like, I want to go through, you know, each of what I see as at least 3 types of approaches and talk about kind of what makes them gay ads, I guess, and what effect and impact they may have on the intended audience. I mean, the first category is we see advertising that is overtly gay. I mean, I think of the diesel commercials where they have men and other executions, women, you know, passionately embracing. I mean, what signal is Diesel trying to send out there?
Well, you know, they're doing a number of things. First of all, their advertising is sort of out there to start with, and you know, in terms of overall campaigns. And you know, that's advertising's goal is to get noticed. And so to do that, they are, you know, being purposefully strange or outrageous, and that carries over into their gay-specific ads as well.
I think it's almost a shock value type of thing. I sometimes wonder when I see advertising like that from Diesel, if they're doing it to shock the straight community or if they're doing it to be sympathetic to the gay community, because I think that's what they're after, the same as a Benetton type ad.
Exactly.
Well, looking at Fab, just as an example, I mean that most of the advertising in there has kind of double entendre, double meanings. Michael, I think something that you've called gay vague, where it probably is speaking to the gay community, but to the straight community, they don't even get it. I mean, it's completely lost in them. I mean,
right.
Tell me about those kind of ads.
Well, you know, the gay vague ads are partly a result of companies sometimes not wanting to admit that they're actually targeting the gay community. And so what they'll do is they'll put an ad in gay media that is not going to be seen by mainstream people anyway, that seems to imply a certain relationship. We can look at Abercrombie & Fitch as an example, where they have executions that appear just in the gay press that people aren't going to see most likely anywhere outside of that community, and that seem to imply a particular kind of relationship. Now, at the same time, Abercrombie is saying, oh no, those ads are not supposed to imply that those people are gay that are pictured. But a gay person looking at those ads is going to think, you know, I'm being reflected here. So, you know, it's done purposefully to not be really clear what's going on. And we're seeing a fair amount of this kind of advertising at this point, where advertisers are trying to be a little bit under the radar in some ways and not be completely out there with their advertising, but at the same time still get the benefit to the gay market.
Well, I think what they're also doing is they are selling an image, and I know that a couple of years ago when Banana Republic kind of changed its whole advertising, I'm not sure who they hired as their photographer, but all of a sudden it became very homoerotic, and it was very hot black and white shots, and it virtually changed the way that magazines advertised. I thought it did, and I know that when I would pick up magazines, if it had a Banana Republic ad, or now say the Abercrombie and Fitch ad, the one in the locker room, people will buy a magazine strictly for those visuals sometimes before they'll buy it for the article. Versace has incredibly hot ads that they put on the back of magazines, like provocateur of, you know, bathing suits or guys changing in underwear or something like that, and a lot of those magazines are sealed. So that when you pick that up, you just have the front cover and that ad on the back, and you know if it's on the back, the rest of it's going to be pretty cool. You'll pick it up.
And this is also an extension of, in recent years, what we've seen with the greater appeal and use of the male figure in advertising in general. Yeah. And again, this is not targeted only to gay men. You know, it's also a sale to women, and even to straight men to a certain degree as well. It's an acceptance of the male body as an image that is usable in advertising, and especially as well in gay media.
Now, I would guess that for some advertisers, it most emphatically works in their best interest to communicate a message that has resonance with the gay audience, but that perhaps is completely misunderstood by the straight audience. Right. I mean, I think of that Miller Lite ad, which just has, you know, 6 guys sitting around a table. Well, 50 always had, you know, a couple of hairy-chested lumberjack guys, me and the boys. What's different? What makes that ad gay?
Basically, we have a man surrounded by 4 other guys who are attractive, and the ad says, life is good, you know, you've missed your plane, and, you know, he doesn't care. He's surrounded by, you know, a bunch of good-looking guys, and he's talking.
This would be going on at the table, well, what everybody wants to know.
This would be the equivalent of being surrounded by attractive women in a straight ad. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily appear like, you know, they're all having sexual relations or whatever may be going on under the table, we don't know. But the point is that it's, you know, it's subtle, and at the same time, it's specifically created to go into gay media.
It's funny because sometimes it depends on what venue the advertisement is in. In our first issue, we had a fashion shoot, and it was a very simple shot. It was taken up north, and there was a trailer, and there was a guy standing in the trailer door. He had on a pair of underwear. There was a sweater over the door of the trailer, and there were 2 guys making breakfast. Now, if that had been in any magazine, you wouldn't have thought anything of it. You would have thought 3 guys up, you know, on a weekend away. We had advertisers say to us that because it was in a gay magazine, it looked like they'd perhaps just had a gangbang. So, you know, so you never know. I am always so surprised at the things that the advertisers find, you know, offensive, or find that we're pushing.
There's an implied message.
And it's strictly the venue that it's in, because had that been anywhere else, you wouldn't have.
But there is.
Takes on different
meanings. The different meaning, though, I think is interesting and probably quite important. I mean, like we were talking before we started airing this, that there are words that mean something to the gay community that mean nothing to the straight community. I think of that Johnny Walker piece, and you were admonishing me about the use of lifestyle. I mean, well, what is that ad speaking?
Well, you know, the ad, if you just look at it, the picture shows 3 guys at a party. You know, they're sort of dressed sort of fabulously or something. But, you know, you wouldn't necessarily think they were gay.
No.
Now, the text is important in the ad, and this is true in a lot of other ads these days as well. The text says, you know, for the last time, it's not a lifestyle, it's a life. And the word lifestyle is a charged word in the